Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic,
My name is Jonathan.
and welcome back to another episode of The End Credits, the show where the two of us discuss our thoughts on a film of our choosing. And today, we are talking about Psycho.
Psycho was directed by Alfred Hitchcock with a release date of September 8th, 1960. Had a running time of 1 hour and 49 minutes, and the genre is a psychological horror / thriller. It stars Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Martin Balsam, John McIntyre, and Janet Leigh. The summary for Psycho is the following. Phoenix secretary Marianne Crane on the lam after stealing $40,000 from her employer in order to run away with her boyfriend, Sam Loomis, is overcome by exhaustion during a heavy rainstorm. Traveling on the back roads to avoid the police, she stops for the night at the ramshackle Bates Motel and meets the polite but highly strung proprietor Norman Bates, a young man with an interest in taxidermy and a devil-court relationship with his mother. So what did you think of Psycho?
I remember liking it the first time I saw it, and to be honest with you, I liked it probably even more now after watching it again for a second time, because the first time I saw it was years ago. But I would also like to add that there are things that I discovered that I don't like. There are a lot of things about Psycho that I don't like, but for the most part, overall, I really do like the film. I'm curious to hear what you thought, though, because you haven't seen Psycho at all, which is crazy to me, and I'm curious to see what you thought of it.
Right. Yeah, this is my first time seeing Psycho, and I had a completely different expectation for this film. So I guess overall, I thought it was, as the name implies, it was Psycho. You know, it's kind of like a crazy ride story-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said just before earlier, that it differed from my expectations before, because I thought that Psycho was, I guess, more I thought it was more similar to, I expected a similar story to American Psycho, as weird as that sounds, even though I assume American Psycho was inspired by the original Psycho in some ways, right?
Maybe.
I assume so, but yeah, I assumed that we would see this transformation of character, meaning we have a main character learn about the side character or the other main character, and then they wouldn't be what they thought they were, okay? And I knew that going in, that's what I suspected, because obviously everybody knows the famous scene, so that's how I thought it was going to arrive there, right? It being Psycho, I expected someone to turn, right there.
Okay.
And what I was shocked to see is that iconic scene in the shower was very early on, and it was almost as if it wasn't like I thought it was supposed to be the main defining moments of it, but in some ways it's actually not. It's a scene that's kind of taken out of the film, because it is an iconic scene, but it's not the like centerpiece of the story, because it happens really early on. It's like the starting catalyst to the story.
Okay.
In some ways, that really like it basically sets a path for the rest of the movie, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised to see this like early on, where we see Marion have this connection, or basically steal some money from the place she worked. That was so I expected, like, oh, okay. I expected her to actually go to the bank and, just do it or whatnot, right? And just move on with her life after being basically hit on by that one guy.
Right.
And the fact that she didn't go to the bank really shocked me when watching it, because I was like, oh, whoa, this is interesting.
I honestly forgot that the $40,000 was that subplot was even involved in the film. I completely forgot about that when I was watching it again. I was like, I completely forgot about this $40,000 subplot.
Right, like it was after, she's gone from the film. It's like not even relevant anymore,
Right.
which is crazy to me.
Well, I would
thought,
disagree with relevant. I think it was still relevant. It just that, yeah, I think more of the focus was on Norman Bates rather than the 40,000, but the $40,000 was still being investigated because that was the whole reason why Arbogast came over. So,
well, I argued that it was. I more than thought it was that it was for Marion and what happened to her. That was the who cared about the money, really. I
sure.
guess the one investor sent the private investigator, right, to do it, but it was like I was secondary. So first was Marion,
Yeah.
and then it was the money, and then Norman Bates or whatnot.
Right, that makes sense.
But yeah, it was weird to see that she did this bad thing, even though like I felt it wasn't like a bad thing, quote unquote, because I didn't like the guy, right? So I was like, oh, stick it to him or whatnot, right? But it was weird because I suspected that she'd be like the good person throughout the thing, even though I think eventually she was, right?
Yeah.
But
Try to be.
right, and I found that I was like, oh, it was a weird spin that I didn't think was supposed to happen. Like, I didn't think this was supposed to even be involved throughout the film. And then it was weird because she was like very suspicious early on. Like everything that happened, it's kind of like a weird difference between like stuff we see today, if it's involving like some sort of bad realm. Like we watch Breaking Bad. Don and me are very familiar with the series. Looking at like, for example, Walter White, go into that direction, we at least see him, I guess, I don't want to say handle it better, but like it was almost as if it wasn't as much of a headache as it was for her throughout the
So
beginning.
you're just essentially saying that it's more common today to see this part antagonist, like a protagonist turned antagonist, and it's more common to see that kind of story nowadays.
Yes and no. I think it's more when I refer to them handling it's more they have this like mental capability to continue on or with their bad scenario, even though it's technically bad. You can tell, for example, for like Walter White, he gives, I don't want to say an excuse or like he basically places in his mind why he would do bad stuff and finds justification for it. There you go. While as in Marion's case, you can tell that she was like very troubled, and that's, I guess, more realistic. I feel like for people to actually get that much deeply in trouble, like in their mind, that they like basically turn back and like turn themselves in, and that was like a fresh instance that I never see before. Because again, usually, if a character goes through that in like a show or something like that, they are able to just brush past it. And Marion felt very real.
Very human.
Yeah, very human because she was struggling with it at first.
I have to admit, though, it was kind of weird because after watching it again, I was like, I felt like it was moving really fast in those moments when she took the 40,000. But once I thought about it a little bit more, I did realize that it made a lot of sense if we want to feel her kind of tension and the paranoia that she's feeling in that moment from stealing $40,000. Of course, things are going to feel and pick up fast. And we could clearly see her paranoia via her facial expressions and the fact that she wasn't even stopping at like a rest area of any kind or a motel. And yeah, I guess originally as I was watching, I thought it was just really quick.
Really? Maybe
I thought so,
maybe
yeah.
because I haven't seen at all, so I didn't know where we're supposed to go. I thought it was actually like a steady pace.
Yeah, I think what made it feel a little bit more quick too is the music. I think the music just became a little too tense for me too early because I think the first moment where we get like a moment of tension with the music is when she sees her boss crossing the street as she's leaving town.
But why wouldn't like the music pick up at that time though?
No, I'm saying it makes sense. I'm saying that it makes sense, but I think that I think that for whatever reason in my head, I felt like it was just too much. I think it should have picked up a little. I think it should have been a little bit more gradual, and it wasn't, at least in the way I saw it. I felt like it just kind of hit me, and that makes sense to me as well, but I kind of wish it were a little bit more gradual, because I felt like when the music came in, I just felt like it was a little too much. And for the moment, I guess I kind of wanted to live a little bit more and her feeling of she's getting away with it, and being able to hear the voiceovers a little bit more until before we saw the moment where she sees her boss crossing the street. I just felt like it was a little too early is all.
You thought so?
I thought so.
Watching it for the first time, I thought it was fine. I think it made sense that, okay, you know, that she was quote unquote caught, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the music, I guess, essentially ramped up the idea that we were supposed to feel this intensity, because, you know, that's how people would feel if they were like, oh, I have this money, right?
Right. And like I said, I get that point, and that's more than likely what they're going for. It's just that for me, I guess I wish it were more gradual. I understand what they were going for. I wish it were more gradual, and we could have felt, yes, we felt her side of the paranoia, obviously, but I guess just having that moment of just having the moment last a little bit longer, of the feeling of she's getting away with it. We didn't.
I just question why, though.
Well, I'm just saying because I don't know. I guess it's because she seemed a little bit, because in the beginning we see how she's a little bit unhappy with the relationship with Sam. Not necessarily unhappy with him per se. It's more just about she's unhappy with the fact of hiding around with him, because I think he's recently divorced or something like that, and she doesn't want to have to hide anymore. So she's just a little bit unsure and unhappy with the fact that they have been hiding and meeting in secret. So basically, since we already had that idea in mind from her that she wants to have this change, and she obviously wants to be with him, I guess just with when she got a hold of the 40,000, it kind of felt like it was this moment for her to start this new life with him. And I guess I wanted to just be in that moment a little bit more, a little bit longer.
That makes sense.
And I think we just kind of rushed into which, like I'm saying, it makes sense that we got rushed into the paranoia. It's just that I felt like it would have been okay if the music weren't as, like, I wish it weren't as loud, I guess, because I felt like the first notes, like the first opening bits of music that really ramped up. It ramped up. Like, I'm not saying that there was no gradual. They skipped right to these like crescendos of the violin, and when we first see when she sees her boss on the street, and I just felt like it was a little much, and then the music just kind of lasted all throughout as she was driving, and I just kind of wish it were a little, I don't know, I guess I wish it were a little bit different, that we were building to gradual, and the fact that it wasn't just kind of threw me off a little. But it was still good. I understand his intention, so it was good for that reason. A similar note along with the pace, like how I mentioned in the beginning, that although I like this movie a lot more now than I did then, I think, but I still noticed things that I wasn't really happy with watching it again, and a pace is definitely one of them. I felt like with a majority of the film, I wish we kind of like similar to what you said for Alien. I wish we had more moments for character development, because
really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I actually wish we had more moments for character development in Psycho.
Who specifically? Who? Everyone as a whole, or
I think probably Norman.
Really? He's
either. I guess both Norman and Marion, both of them. I kind of wish we got a little bit more between those two.
Really?
Yeah, because as I was watching, I kind of felt like similar to what you said about the shower scene, how it came pretty quickly, like in the very opening moments of the film, essentially, maybe like, I don't know, half hour in. I kind of felt like when I was watching it too, I thought that I forgot that the shower scene had come so early, and I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to, I guess, have any I wish we had some more teases before that shower scene. I really wanted to live in, and we still lived in the mystery of Norman way past Marion's death. But I guess I wanted some more out of that. It was pretty quick. And I actually forgot as well that Marion didn't even last that long in the film. And I think I remember myself saying when I first watched it that, wow, they killed off their main character so early. How could they do that? And now looking back at it, I think I realized that Marion wasn't necessarily the main character. So yeah, I was like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. But I still made the note to myself as I was watching that I wish it took a little bit more time. I think there's a lot of elements in this film that are really good, like the Norman's character and whatnot. It just that I wish it I wish it took it a little bit slower.
I had to disagree actually with I think the reason you feel this way is because you knew the outcome of you've seen it before, so you're already expecting you already know the whole mystery. But I guess me as a first time viewer, I thought, yes, I do agree that the iconic scene in the shower was early, but the only reason why I thought it was early is because I expected it to be like the forefront of the movie and basically carry that throughout. And it was shocking to me that it was so early. And it actually, I think, worked the idea that Marion actually left so quickly, even though I was saddened because I felt she was the main character because that was who we were following at the beginning, right?
Right.
And I was shocked to see that. Oh, I was like, oh, maybe she. It was just just a scratch, or something like it was just she'll revive herself or something like that, right? But the fact that she actually just died, and went into the swamp area, right? It was shocking to me that the character's just gone. So that's a fact that I agree that maybe shocked me, but I don't think I disagree with the idea of it happening so early as a bad thing, because if you do look at the whole thing, she was basically the mystery after the fact. And in some ways, I was sad. Like I said before, I was sad to see her go, but only because I think there was enough character development already there to feel that, oh man, I felt it that she, when she died, I was like, I was saddened, and I think it was enough because we had the whole at the beginning where she had the relationship with Sam, and then learning that she wanted to have some other life, right?
Right.
And then having some guy hit on her, and it was like, oh, it's creepy. It's like I don't like that. And then I felt for her that she got like the small victory with the money, and then it was very like I felt that she wasn't taking the whole fugitive thing,
Seriously?
No, not seriously. It was more like it was hurting her, right? And I felt like she was innocent in that realm. I guess that her story had nothing to do with the Bates Motel, and the fact that she died in that realm, like just out of nowhere, right? Really, because she wasn't supposed to like drift off into that place. She wasn't supposed to even be there in the first place, right? She was just basically stopping there for the night to go back to where righting her wrongs, right? And
Right.
I felt that her character, I guess I felt sympathetic for her character, right?
Okay.
And the fact that she just died out of nowhere was very saddening to me because, again, she had nothing to do with this Norman Bates character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, that's
Upsetting.
upsetting, and I guess the true disturbing nature of this film, that basically these people had nothing to do, cross paths at all,
Right.
besides the fact that she stayed there one night and that's it.
Yeah, but I'm not disagreeing with the fact that that happened. It's just that I think we could have dragged it out a little bit more. I don't disagree with the fact that of what had happened and how she died. I just think that we could have taken a little bit more time to be in that world between the two of them. I think we could have taken just a little bit more time to understand how creepy this place was. I think we got it in those few moments and whatnot because like even because we get it from Norman, just Norman, him just acting like
Right,
him, which is
the talk
which is
they had.
creepy. Well, not well, yeah, of course that, but like just the way he communicates with her, the way like he smiles, and the way he just interacts with her, and I wish I wanted more. I wanted more of that between the two of them to last a little bit longer. I think it was just a little too quick, and I really wish we just kind of we felt that a little bit more between those two. Like to see, I don't know. I guess it's because like this, it's the horror psychological side of it, but I guess to see that evil a little bit more because we even saw him peeping through a hole when she was getting undressed before, like when he left her in a room, and like it was just it was creepy, and and since it is a horror film, I guess I'm not saying that I want to see more of the peeping. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I wanted to see more of that like evil from Norman, and between the two of them, I wanted to see more of that because I felt like it just kind of went from one thing to another so quickly. So
I argue that if they did have a connection, it would have lost the horror of just being there, basically crossing paths for no reason. The fact that I think the horror with it is because they weren't supposed to cross paths and they had no other connection besides that one night.
Right.
That's horrifying to me that this person would just kill this person without ever really knowing them.
Right.
And if they did, take a little bit longer time to know them, I think that would have decreased that horrifying thriller for me.
I guess that's a good point to bring up because even if it did last any longer, which it wouldn't have lasted that much longer because she was going to leave the next morning. So that's a good thing to bring up, that had they had a little bit more of a connection, it would have destroyed the horror between the two of them.
Yeah. Going back to the whole Norma was very like suspicious. I think everybody. No, I think when they crossed paths, they were more suspicious of anybody. I just felt as like it was just weird. I want like going back to their interactions. It was just me watching. I was like, oh, what's happening?
Very awkward.
Yeah, especially again for these people just first meeting.
Right.
It was just very awkward.
It was honestly, when I was watching, I actually thought that Norman was quite likable at first. I thought he was very likable and just a shy person when she met him. But then I think it was pretty early still that I kind of realized that, oh, he's a little weird too, or a little awkward, I guess. But honestly, for me, at first, he came off quite likable. Like he was just being nice and everything. And he was talking about how, no one really comes through here. So he was kind of glad to see that someone was, wanting to stay the night.
Uh-huh.
And he was kind of almost like a little excited that someone was here.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of likable that, he just wants to do his job. But obviously it takes a turn when he kind of like really goes into that and talks about it. I think like he starts talking about his mom and whatnot, and it just gets awkward between the two of them.
I actually think when it turned for me was the fact that they when he brought the meal, the dinner,
yeah,
and the fact that he wanted to go eat somewhere else, that was like,
oh yeah,
for me at least, I was like, oh, that's a red flag.
Because he said that like, oh, let's eat in my office, or I think she invited him in to eat in the room, and then he's like, oh, let's eat in the office. And then he said when she came into the office, he was like, oh, eating here would be too officious, so we need to eat in the parlor. It's just right here, like right in the back of my office. And I was like, this is so forward. And it was very strange. Even the fact that he asked her to dinner, like that was even more forward.
That was true.
Honestly, I think like even when he was showing her the room, it felt very normal until he talked about the bathroom, which felt kind of strange, and obviously a foreshadow to the shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
But it started getting really weird when he invited her to dinner.
Yeah, that's true.
It was very forward, too forward.
I agree.
So that was strange.
Basically, like after that, Marion dies, and they have this whole private detective come, or private investigator, the PI, whatnot, try to track her down. And that was kind of weird to me because at first, like, I didn't know who this character was, and how they introduced him was just, through a window, right? And I was like, how is this connecting to anything? Because basically, once Marion died, I was like, is the movie over? First time watching it, I was like, what
yeah,
happened?
like this is it. I actually kind of do want to speak a little bit about when Marion died, because like you mentioned, that this is the iconic shower scene from Psycho. I want to know what you thought about it though, before we move on to like the rest of the story and the events. I don't think like the shower scene, like when you saw it, what did you think? You've at least seen the scene before,
right?
haven't you?
I've seen the scene before,
Okay,
but like, I don't think anything like I can like really say definitively. Like it's the iconic scream with the knives coming at. I guess in some ways, no, I don't want to again blame it for the times, but it did look a little goofy, in some ways. But I don't think it deterred, from what was actually happening. And I guess, if anything, the most shocking thing was that she actually died from it, and it actually happened now. I assume that she, when watching, because I haven't watched the actual full scene until we watched it for Psycho.
Yeah.
Right. So I watched like half of it, right? Probably up to the scream, right?
Okay.
And just seeing that she actually died right there with the iconic scream, it was very weird to me, just because of where it placed in the film. If anything, I want to say that stood out was that she reached forward after the fact.
Yeah.
And then she just dropped. That was kind of like, oh, what? She was still. I assumed that she just fall into the bathtub and just stay there.
Uh-huh.
But the fact that she reached out, that was kind of like very grim, another disturbing piece that, she tried to escape, but didn't
make it.
Yeah, it didn't make it.
You said that you felt like it was kind of goofy. Like what made the scene goofy to you?
I think just the knives to the person,
Oh, okay.
Like
the cuts it took?
Right.
Okay.
Probably because you could tell, like, obviously they weren't doing, anything. But that's about it. It's a time thing,
Okay,
they couldn't do anything about that. So that's the only goofy part, I would say. But going back to the reaching the hand out, that was the disturbing piece.
Honestly, like I was watching it again, I thought about how, like, man, this was the setup for the slasher genre, and I was just thinking about like all of that, and the fact that this scene right here was basically the start of, not saying that like slasher films started like right after that, but like it set the template.
It basically. Yeah.
And when I was like watching that, I was just thinking about other slasher films, and I was just thinking, man, like this one scene, and yeah, like this one scene did it. And like with all of the stereotypes and tropes, it was just really, it was playing through my head and thinking, wow, like how significant this scene was for the whole genre of horror.
Yeah, it's definitely like that catalyst, even for the film, right?
Right.
To like kickstart, what the whole
rest of the story would be.
Right.
Yeah. So then, she's killed by the mother.
Well, I guess talking about that whole, let's go to like the mother and Norman Bates. So even though I never watched the film before, I did have this suspicion that their relationship was like strange, and that there was something not, like something hidden, not told. So I was very suspicious to see that. We saw a lady kill this other lady. So I was like, because I always, if I wanted to say, I thought it was a guy, right? Maybe because of the slasher film, we see, your Michael Myers, your Jason Voorhees, your Freddy, right? It's usually some sort of man,
right,
doing this to teenagers or something like that, right?
Sure.
And the fact that it was a lady there, I was like, huh, that's interesting. And I was like, how is this going to unravel. The fact also that we didn't see the mother at all. We only saw this like a side profile shot from a window.
Right. I thought it was good that we at least the relationship between Norman and his mother, it was established quickly. Simply, and I like it was simply due to an argument that the two had when Norman wanted to invite Marion over for dinner.
Right.
And we already had that like established like we established the strained relationship between the two. That clearly the mother's controlling, and she tells Norman what to do.
Right.
So yes, we did see the side profile through the window, and that was it. And towards the beginning,
yeah, I knew something in that relationship was off. I guess going into Psycho, because I knew that there was a mother and son relationship, and I knew going in that something in the relationship was off. I didn't really know what, or I didn't have any confirmation of what. And then basically, once we get to the end, I was like, oh, my suspicions were confirmed. For that whole relationship, I guess we like skip forward to basically how they clash. I think the fact that we didn't see anything from her, and that again, I think it was the fact that we couldn't ever reach. It was like, okay, maybe she's like not there or something like that, right? It was very. I'd assume if she played some sort of bigger role, we would have at least seen something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, did you feel like it was strange that we never saw her? And I was wondering, like, if you felt like it was strange the fact that we never actually caught a glimpse of her in any of the moments when the two were talking. As you were watching, did you feel like it was?
Yeah, I knew something was up. I was like, something's wrong here.
Right.
So I was like, okay, the fact that that's it, maybe to believe. I did think, she's probably like a corpse or something like that, right? I did think that like immediately that's the whole Psycho thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was only suspicious, right? Basically, I think I was at the point when the private detective came over, and I was basically that's where I was suspicious of it, right?
Okay.
That's where I thought, oh, she's probably dead or something like that, right? But then it wasn't confirmed until basically at the end, right?
Right. So like even the moment when Norman carried her out of the room to hide her in the fruit cellar, you still thought that it was a corpse?
Yeah, the fact that she didn't walk on her own.
Okay.
The fact that we didn't see any face, even when at the famous slash scene, we didn't see anything.
Right.
I was like, okay, she's not actually there.
How did you explain like the voices though, like the conversations they had together?
Again, I was just basically in my mind. That's where the Psycho stuff, that's how they explain everything. So I knew something wasn't right with Norman at the conversation.
Yeah,
with basically the whole interaction with Marion, and I knew the fact that we didn't see anything of the mother. I was like, okay, something's not right. The fact. We didn't see her walk or face at the same time.
Right.
Something was off.
Okay. So you knew pretty early on that what the rest of the story would bring.
Right.
I actually I thought it was really clever as to how how Alfred Hitchcock was almost like hiding those moments with the mother, yet still giving us scenes, quote unquote scenes with her, even though we never actually saw her. Right. And as I was watching again, since I already knew what the outcome was going to be, I was like, I actually kind of like how clever that they're not ever showing the mother at any point, and yet it seems like she is alive, and the way that Norman talks about her makes it seem that way. And I was like, for someone who's never seen the film or knows anything about it, I knew that you already knew of it. But I was still curious to see what like you were thinking and if you actually were catching on to these clues.
Right. I thought she was alive when Marion came for the first time. It wasn't until when the private detective, the private investigator came where I was suspicious that she wasn't even alive.
Right. I guess the one thing that I felt like was almost kind of like it was giving it away what was that early moment when we saw the mother in the window, and then not long after, because that's who Marion sees first, but then Norman comes out not long after. But it's just kind of like if he is the one cross dressing, or maybe he just set up her corpse in front of the window.
I think so.
Either or. If like at first my thought was he was cross dressing and he was just like watching, and because the moment when he comes out to go help her, to help Marion with her bags, the mother's no longer in the window. So my thought was, oh, maybe he was cross dressing, and as he was like going down the stairs, he literally changed, because he probably wears his clothes underneath.
That's possible too. Yeah.
And I was just like, I guess that was the only thing that might have given it away. The fact that like it was, or maybe not, because it was so fast. Those like quick changes, but I thought it was just clever seeing how Alfred Hitchcock had the mother, like her interaction with her and Norman.
Yeah, I think people grew suspicious, eventually. But yeah, I don't think you can really conclude at the beginning. I don't think, like you said,
it's too early.
Yeah, it's a possible giveaway. I don't think it was, because again, I think, for at least for me, I thought the fact that we saw her at the window, it wasn't enough to me. It's like, oh, she's dead, right?
Right.
So yeah, I don't think. I think I did a good job, like you said at the beginning, to hide the fact that she wasn't alive.
Yeah, I also like. I guess I was picking up on those tells on when, for like a foreshadow for the outcome for the rest of the film. And I felt like another one that came early on was when Norman was having the conversation with Marion, and she mentioned like if he should she suggested maybe you should take your mother to someplace else, because it seemed like Norman was unhappy. And the way he talked about like this, like someplace else, like the insane asylums, as he put it, it seemed like he was talking from experience. And when I was like listening to him talk about it, I was like, oh, that was a dead giveaway. And I'm curious if like I was just curious like if you caught on to it. And I didn't. I don't think I noticed it the first time. So watching it again, I was noticing those things, and I was like, oh, it's kind of neat how it was so early, but it could have given the rest of it away, perhaps.
I was definitely suspicious in that conversation. I remember thinking like, for Marion, leave immediately.
Yeah, because this is weird.
After that conversation, I was like, leave immediately, get in your car and go away. Like, maybe because it was a horror film, I was like, okay, something's up, right? And oh, this is Psycho, so something's up, right? But yeah, I was like, red flags everywhere. I was like, when he told the story about the poison or whatnot with the
the father's stepfather?
Yeah, the stepfather. I was like, something's off here again.
Right.
I was like, that's not the story, or it's not the full thing. I felt.
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, just the way he talked, especially like so early on. It was very much like not on guard, but the fact that he got like real offended, so like real. Because this person didn't know the circumstances,
right? And
I felt like the fact that he got so like offended, I was like, oh man, I'm a little scared,
Yeah.
And there's nobody here. It's just her and him, and I was like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Also, the fact that his story felt too clean. I think that was another thing. Like I just felt like his story was so clean, and that was just another thing that I felt like was often creepy. But
I definitely felt sad for the sister and Sam.
Oh, right.
I was like, oh man. I thought in some ways Norman was going to get away with it because of the sheriff that they called eventually.
Oh, right. The local sheriff, yeah.
Yeah, because he basically took him off the path for a little bit until they did their own investigation. Oh, let's talk about the private investigator actually going into like how he pressed Norman for the stuff.
Watching that scene, I really liked it. I really liked that entire scene. That whole sequence of scenes was great. I loved it.
Yeah, like he very much got him like cornered. I was like, oh man, you're messing up, Norman or whatnot.
And honestly, like in a lot of ways, I thought it was strange that he was messing up. Because why did I don't know? I guess my question when I saw that, it was like, why was he so flawless with Marion and not with this
Right.
personal investigator?
That's true. Like he was very much. Yeah, that's total. I caught that too. Like this investigator, like really tripped him up super easily.
And
Why?
Yeah, why?
Like he could have at least told the truth, basically, and it would have just been normal.
Yeah, he would have been he would have been okay. And for whatever, and maybe this was, and as we find out later towards the end, that maybe that was the mom coming through, and it wasn't him. But we also like learned that he supposedly had more of a connection with Marion, so that could be a difference, and not necessarily having a connection with the PI. But I just thought it was weird that he let his guard down with the personal investigator, and I was like, I don't quite understand why, because he could have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like he could have kind of gotten away with it
I agree.
for the most part. So either way, though, it was still enjoyable to watch the scenes where the PI was strong arming him and was asking him or not even really, and just asking him these questions,
Just basic questions.
and Norman was just, for whatever reason, paranoid
right.
that he was going to find out, and tripping up on a story and whatnot. And I think this was also the moment where I noticed that even if I think what I really liked about this whole like paranoia that Norman was feeling, not only that we were seeing it verbally, but we were also seeing these nonverbal reactions.
Yeah, like he was starting to sweat and everything.
Right, that he was starting to sweat, that he was starting to kind of like lick his lips, and he was also eating, I think it was like candy corn. He was I don't know if it was
Something
like
like that,
popcorn
yeah.
or candy corn or something, and he was just like eating away at it, like just eating these candy corns, and like it was really neat to see how even his nonverbal reactions were giving him away.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very weird when like the PI was looking through the logbook, and then they had that like undershot of Norman eating the candy corn and like looking at the name of Marion, and I was just like, this is such a strange shot that we saw. Like it was like right under his chin, and it was so strange. But it made me feel uncomfortable because I'm sure he was uncomfortable. So I felt the same way. I felt the tension in that scene. But I also kind of felt a little bit scared for the PI, because of what had happened to Marion, and I kind of didn't want the PI to get killed as well.
Right. I think the fact that Norman was very off, like on edge, I wasn't as scared for the PI for some reason, because I felt like maybe because I thought it was like a cop or whatnot, right? He had some sort of weapon or something to defend himself. What was weird about the PI though was the fact that he actually just forced himself into the house that Norman lives. I thought I was like, oh, whoa, he just. Okay, let me just walk in and see the mother.
Right.
That was very weird to me.
I was like, what was his plan?
Yeah, I was like, well, how do you explain this? I'm just in someone's house and I just wanted information, man. Like it's more like just do it and beg for forgiveness later.
I think that's what his mind was at, and ultimately it didn't work out for him, as we know.
Right.
And yeah. Still to this day, when I first watched the scene, when love the aerial shot of when the mother is like right as she stabs the PI when she stabs him. I love that shot, like right beforehand, and then we cut to him falling down the stairs. Still to this day, I still think that scene is hilarious when he falls down the stairs.
It's definitely very.
It's of the times. It's a product of the times of what we
totally.
could do with cameras and whatnot. But every time I see that, I crack up because I remember laughing at it the first time I saw it, and I still laughed at it this time around. It's just it's funny. Like when you're watching, you'll understand what I'm saying.
That's probably the one where you probably don't take seriously compared to Marion.
Yeah.
Marion, I took seriously. This one, it was a little silly.
This was definitely silly, no doubt.
So let's move on to when Sam and the sister. What was the sister's name?
Lila.
Lila.
Yeah.
When they come to the Bates Hotel, because They had a good plan actually at first.
I thought so too. I was happy that they were getting their moment because I actually forgot that the sister got involved with the situation, and seeing that unfold was another enjoyable moment to watch, similar to the PI scenes. And I don't know, like this was that moment where I was just kind of like, oh man, I'm really scared for them that they're going through this and that they have this plan to investigate while they're trying to keep Norman busy and whatnot. And I was like, this part's really tense, and I just really don't want Norman to find out.
Right. I was like, they had a good plan with going in as like husband and wife.
Right.
And I think what threw them off though was the fact that they were very
I think they were
blunt.
they were blunt and too forceful.
And too forceful with like their approach to Norman, like, oh, why'd you forget this?
Right.
Or why didn't you do this? Or
I think they should.
That's weird.
I think this is one of those moments again where I wish we took it slower. This is one of those moments that I really wish they weren't so forceful and were a little bit more, tactical in their approach, because they weren't. And I really wish we built this more. This was one of those moments I really desperately wanted to have built, because it could have been great had we like extended this search through the apartment that Marion was staying in. And I don't know, it just happened way too fast. Now I really wish it took its time, and it didn't.
I do agree that this is the part where they should have increased the time
Right.
to bring. But I also want to say that it's possible that because through this blunt and forcefulness that they had, that's also a human characteristic.
Right.
They're not
They're not going to
trained professionals or something like that. They're just worried about, their loved one.
Right.
So they're like, on edge too. And
Yeah.
that came out through their
actions and their
actions.
demeanor.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I really did like it though. And in some ways, and you see, and still in some ways, you almost kind of feel bad for Norman for whatever reason, because he is being tricked.
I never did. I don't think once in this film felt bad for him ever.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. No.
Not even in the moment when, like, his mother were just like yelling at him.
Okay, that's true. In the beginning, sure, but once they had their conversation, once the meal happened, the dinner happened.
Yeah,
that's it for me.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
It.
That's totally fair. I get that. Yeah. So then they're going through their investigation, and Sam is keeping Norman busy by talking with him, and Lila goes through the house.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I really like about the film, is that this is the first time, besides that other moment when we saw the house in the interior for like a moment's time when Norman went inside, but I really like how this was the first time. Oh wait, no, and also the PI. But even so then, we didn't get much.
We've been in a little bit.
Right, a little bit of the house. But I really like how this was the moment where we really got to explore the interior.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because for most of the movie, we didn't see much of it. And it was interesting to get to be able to see more and feel like you're with Lila and accompanying her on her investigation. And that was a really tense scene, because you were just hoping that Sam was keeping up with the distraction for Norman. And I think it really, the tension escalated when I think Norman started following on as to what the two were doing,
right?
And attacked Sam and then ran up to the house. And
my question is how she went into what looked like Norman's room?
Yes.
She pulled out a book, but I don't think we ever saw the contents of it.
No. Clearly she saw something that she didn't want to see.
Right. I'm just surprised as us as the audience, we didn't see
get
either.
A chance to see it. Yeah. So I do know, doing a little bit of research, that it was just certain characteristics that the Norman, or that the character in the book version of Psycho had, and that they didn't display those images via the film because it was too much.
Like disturbing wise?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just alluded to it, you know,
Okay.
the fact that there was these kinds of images, so they just cut it from the film, or not actually showing the images,
Okay.
but we did see it in Lila's facial expressions.
Right.
So like, and even as I was watching, I got that point came across.
I just felt like that point came across as just I felt it was like some sort of clue, and the fact that the audience didn't see that clue.
Oh,
I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's not that big of a deal, quote unquote.
all right. I mean, I think we got the idea that it was just disturbing,
Right.
and it obviously pointed to Norman, and just kind of
Right.
like, oh yeah, this is strange.
I thought it was like it was an explanation of all the events, like a diary of some sort.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, it's gonna basically he wrote it down what he did or stuff
Right,
like that.
right,
That's what I thought at first.
Right. Yeah, and then shortly after, Lila just like she's trying to leave when Norman gets back and he's searching through the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then right before she's about to leave, when she has her opening, she clearly has a moment where she can just leave. But then she sees the fruit cellar and she decides to go downstairs. And
That's a creepy basement.
yeah, like very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Loved that location, and it's just very creepy, and I was just like, oh, it's exactly what you would think it would be. And you know, she finds what she thinks is Mrs. Bates, and then you know we get the big reveal where she turns her around and it's just the skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
And she screams because it's like, what the heck, why do we have just this corpse right here?
Right.
And then not long after, Norman comes right in, and he's dressed up as his mother. And
luckily Sam
comes
in
to
for
the rescue.
save.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And tries, luckily Sam stops her.
For a second
Stops
there,
him.
I thought she was gonna die right there. But luckily, like we said, Sam came in. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, thank God.
Right.
And like, not nobody else, please.
Right. I have to mention, and I should have mentioned it during the shower scene, the fact that like we always have the reoccurring motif of those, those spiking violins
the classic,
the classic sound from the shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that everyone knows. And I really like how that always comes back every time when Norman / the mother kills,
Mm-hmm.
like that murder theme. And I just really like how it always comes back. But man, when we had it playing and we were watching, it was like ear piercing. I was just like, I forgot how ear piercing this was, and it was effective though. But man, quite a bit. Let's move on to the end, I suppose. And I have to say, this is the part I definitely did not remember. Like this whole aftermath of when Norman gets, he's arrested and taken in for questioning. I really did not like this end scene.
So
I did not like it.
So I like the fact that we knew the answers, right? So
What do you mean?
So like we knew basically what happened. Everybody knew what happened. What the answers was to what would happen to Marion, the PI. Basically, all the details that were hidden from the characters, they knew now. With some psychologists coming in and telling them the answer.
Oh, you actually liked all of that?
I like I like the fact that they knew the answers now. They had the answers. There was closure for them.
Okay.
I don't think I like the fact that we were told in this way.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't like that either. I thought it was. I was like, well, why do we watch this whole film then? Like, I don't know. I kind of felt like he explained, this psychologist explained this entire film to me,
Right,
via his story,
right,
and I really disliked that.
right. Yeah, I just like that too. But again, I think the outweighs. I wanted closure for these characters at this point.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's what I wanted more than how the story presentation. So I kind of gave it a slight pass per se, but I would agree that basically the fact that the psychologist summed up the entire thing was like, couldn't we have done it some other way?
I was really, I think so. This is the way I would have done it. I was really disappointed. At that whole moment, I kind of like checked out. I kind of checked out of watching the movie in a way, because I was really disappointed by the fact that we were getting told the whole like the whole reasoning behind the events that had taken place from this psychologist. I just disliked it. And the way I would have done it is, so Norman's arrested, he's captured, he's at the place, and then maybe we get like a few little things about like answers for the characters Lila and Sam about what had happened to Marion. And then I wish we just cut straight directly to when we see that close up of Norman and have the voiceover of the mother talking and going through that whole entire scene the exact same way it did in the end. And then that's it. I also hated when at the very end we saw the car getting pulled out of the swamp. I hated that too.
Really?
I really wish we just had that whole last scene with Norman and the mother voiceover and fade to black with the end, or just fade to black and however, like, no, yeah, just the fade to black, the end, and that's it. I dislike the fact that we got the psychologist explanation and the car getting pulled out of the swamp. I really dislike both of those two scenes.
I actually like the pulling the car out of the swamp, but I don't know about for the ending. I like it as like like just as a pure shot, seeing that as okay, we've maybe it is because of the end. It's the ending. I don't know. I had no problems with that. I want to say, and I want like I was gonna say like, oh, maybe not for the ending, but in some ways I think I do like it for the ending because it shows that I don't want to say closure. It's not closure. It's more that I guess it is. It has something to do with closure. Like we're going to find out, or the people, their world is still going. Even the fact that this bad stuff happened, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct way to put it. I don't know if I can describe into words why I like that sort of ending. Because I think the black ending would have been like, I don't want to say generic either, but like, okay, that's it. Like, there's no. It's like a justice sense.
Yeah, it's like tying up the loose ends, and there's justice for in the end, and there's justice against the murderer, which makes sense. I don't know. I think it would have fit better had we had that I guess more grim ending. Because like why did we see it anyway if it was already there? Like what real I don't know, actually I was gonna say what real difference would it have made had we done it the way I just described. Yeah. But it would have changed the feeling of the ending. It totally would have changed. So
I think just Alfred Hitchcock has weird endings to his films, probably.
Yeah, that is that's probably the case. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I just really didn't like that ending. I think that's honestly kind of what ruined it for me. I think the two things that ruined Psycho for me were the pacing and the ending. I really did dislike both of those two things after watching it again. But I think that they have really great like characters and they got a good story here. I just really don't like how the ending was played out, and I don't like the pacing of the film. I like it in certain moments, and I understand the intention behind the pacing. I just ultimately I found myself not liking either of those things.
I think for me, pacing was fine for the most part until like probably the end. And then I want to say the way that just the talking without like actually showing like further stuff was just not a good way to just end this whole realm. It's a good way to like again get answers quickly and have our human audience try to understand something that goes within the mind. But like I don't know, I feel like. There's better ways. Yeah. I have to believe.
It just kind of felt redundant to me because we had just watched all this pieces unfold, and I don't think I feel like I didn't need another explanation to explain the events.
That's fair. I think
maybe that whole bit was as well a product of the times, and I have to give it slack simply because maybe uh, Alfred Hitchcock or producers felt that maybe people couldn't follow this story, you know?
Or just like understand that in those times, maybe. I don't know. Because like we've had nowadays, those type of stories happen before, like
Right.
that's maybe back then. I don't think in some ways they thought the audience could follow, like you said,
Right.
the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to give it a little bit of slack, but
Right.
still, after watching it again, I don't like the ending.
It
or
is the
pacing.
1960s, so I don't know what their viewpoints were.
Right. Overall, though, would you recommend this film?
I would. I think again, even though it differed from my expectations, just kind of like Alien, where I was like, when I came into it, I was expecting something, and it came out like a different thing. I think people should watch Psycho. I think it was very. I think so far for like a horror themed month,
Right.
this is the most disturbing one for me, at least. I think the
Okay.
fact that again, Marion had nothing to do with the Bates Motel or Norman Bates entirely,
Right.
and the fact she was killed that way, that for me that was disturbing, and that was the most horror esque thing for this film. I did think that the film could have been longer. This was another short one for like Alien.
Right.
It's like, oh man, we're done. Because especially like after Marion died, I was like, oh what?
Yeah. Roll the
You know,
credits.
it's a short one. It's pretty disturbing if this is not like your cup of tea, I guess.
Yeah.
And it definitely paved the way towards slasher films.
Yeah. Totally. I would probably say the same. Like I would definitely recommend that people watch this. Simply because it is it is that beginning of the slasher genre in horror films. Yeah, like I said, it has a good story here. It's got good characters. I just dislike the pacing and the ending. But despite those two things, I would still recommend that people watch it because
Mhm.
it is an important film, and um there are iconic moments throughout the film. I have to mention too, like simply because of like Anthony Perkins, the guy who plays Norman Bates, like just his performance alone. Like I just think that his performance really sells this movie. I really
Right.
enjoyed watching him, even though like he was awkward and whatnot, but he really played it up well, and so did Marion. Everyone did.
Right.
But man, his performance really like sticks out in a good way, and that alone is something to watch this movie for.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, and as well as the music. Like the music is definitely something you got to listen to for as well, because that is also iconic for the film, and very important. So, and there we have it, Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 horror film Psycho. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The End Credits. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The End Credits Podcast and over on Twitter at The End Credits. If you're watching the video version, make sure to subscribe to the End Credits YouTube channel. That's it. Thank you and goodbye.